Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Let's see if I can get this fancy thing to slow down. Perfect. So welcome to the stream. My name is Capt Leung, and today we're going to show you how to stream. While we do this, though, I'm going to let people to file in because we just started about 2 minutes ago. So I'm going to play a little bit of music, but I just want to check out to see if the chat actually works. The chat actually worked. I am so stoked that it does. Do you see that? Lang, do you see yourself on the screen? Because I did that. I'm pretty happy with that. So welcome to the stream. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to talk a lot about leadership. We're not going to talk a lot about pretty much anything else. I'm here to teach you a skill set, and that skill set is streaming. So if you can hear the music, once again, say hello. If this is the first time that you've joined the podcast, also say hello. It'll be great to say hello back. So hello Guan, hello Lang, and hello Ren. Nice to see you guys. A couple things about today. Because this is skills based, if you have any questions that come up, because this is a brand new skill set that we haven't taught before, feel free to ask in the chat. I'm monitoring it, and I'll 100% like do my best at explaining as many things as I possibly can. I realize that I might be a little bit far away from my mic, so give me 1 second. Move this close. Hello, Lau. Nice to see you. Actually, while this happens here, while people move in, I found a nice, cool song for everyone to hear. But I want to see if I can modify a few things here. We'll do that. Always show messages. And hopefully, in a little bit, you're going to see all those messages pop back up. Boom. Hi, die. Okay. So let's get started with a few different things. So getting started with streaming. This is our first podcast here, and actually I'm gonna take down the music so you can focus on me. Streaming is actually a really easy skill set that gets that's pretty daunting for a lot of people to get started. But realistically, you don't need to have a lot of tools to get started. You can have a laptop. You can do it from your laptop. You can even do it from your phone. But what I'm going to go over today is a few of the different tools that I use to run the podcast that you see for the 655, but also on the podcast that I usually run for my work. I also stream gaming sometimes, and this is the exact same setup. Everything else is the same. A little bit of backstory towards streaming. I've always wanted to do it. Beforehand, I was pretty daunted myself. I thought I needed a lot of money. I thought I needed a lot of tools to do it. I do have them now, but realistically, now that I've been going, now that I have streamed on multiple platforms using different software, it's actually dead easy. And that's what we're going to be going over. So we're going to split this lesson up into 4 different sections. Number 1, we're going to go over some hardware recommendations. Like I said, you don't really need a lot, but there are some minimums that you do require. And number 2, there is some recommended hardware that you get. Number 2, we're going to go over the software that I use. There's multiple different software that I have explored, and I'll touch a little bit about each of them. Luckily, all the software that we're going to be talking about today is free. So, like I said, everything we're going to be talking about today is actually, they're all going to be free resources. So this is how to get streaming started for number 3, we're going to talk about platforms. As in, right now you're watching me on YouTube, but on the Monday show, obviously it's on Facebook, and of course I'll talk about Twitch as well. But there are multiple different platforms that you can stream. It doesn't really matter which one we go on. There are some highlights that you just need to remember about it, and we'll show you how to connect that up. And lastly, number 4, we're going to talk about the ins and outs. Not only am I going to show you within a program how to actually get started, but that's where I can show you how to actually like develop your different like frames. As you can see that what I'm in right now, I'm in a little box. This entire thing is called a scene. And then, as an example, I can switch it up. You'll notice that this is a different scene. Now I'm in the bottom corner, right? So there's multiple different ways to display yourself, and we can talk about the benefits of each and every single one of them. But that's the goal of today's stream, to go over these 4 topics to help you understand that it's pretty easy to get started, and it's free to get started. Doesn't take a lot of time, but a little bit of effort goes a long way to make yourself look good. So if you have any questions that you want to know that I didn't cover, or that you just really want to ask, feel free to, once again, put it in the chat here, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. A lot of this, I believe I'm a little bit of an amateur getting started with streaming. However, because I ran one for my company, I can say that I got paid to run a stream. So, you know, we'll take it like that. Okay, so let's go over some hardware, right? I was hoping to have enough time to learn how to connect my cell phone to the stream, but I didn't get a chance, so I'm actually going to stand up and move my camera. But like I said, you don't really need too much. You just need a computer or a phone to start streaming. Realistically, if you're talking about computer specifications or phone specifications, the only thing that I recommend to have for all of this is just a good internet connection. If you don't have a good internet connection, it's going to be really hard for you to stream a steady image. And it realistically, I would recommend that you use anything like 150 packages or above. I know TELUS and Shaw have a 150 package. Anything above 100 is gravy. And if you don't know how to check how good your internet is, I'm going to move this over here. Actually, for those who are techie in the chat, how do you check how fast your internet is? Do you know? Do you know what website you go to? Because the one that I use is I just Google ping test. And you can actually use a Google ping test, but you can also use a speed test. This is the one I typically use. You can check it out by going to speedtest.net. Let's go. It'll load a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Fans got it. We go to speedtest.net, and once it connects, it'll tell you upload and download speed. Realistically, download speed, anything above 60 to 100 is good enough to start going. But anything above 100 is recommended. Especially, not really your download speed, but mostly your upload speed. Some people can get by with 15, right? But if you don't have 15, you can go it this way as well. As you can see, I have some pretty good upload speed, which is, yeah, I don't have ad block on. I was reading some news and I forgot to turn it back on. Beyond that though, what else is recommended beyond your internet connection? If you have a computer and you are looking to stream, let's say, games, not only do you need a decent computer to run that game, but I would recommend that you go for 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's usually recommended, and a decent dedicated graphic card. You can use a built-in one, but you're gonna chunk pretty hard. So if you're streaming off a laptop, realistically, you're not gonna be really streaming gaming. If you're streaming off your phone, that's a little bit more approachable if it's a mobile game. But once again, a good internet connection is key. In terms of the show here, I use a lot of different hardware to get this started. I have a mic, I have a camera, I actually have 2 mics, I have 2 monitors to get this done, and a lot of other things. Something that is actually, let me take a pause here. Let me actually go through the things that I actually use so that you have a point of reference. But you don't actually need something as intense as what I'm about to show you, obviously. As long as you have a mic and a camera, you can technically do what we do. And there's a lot of streaming that you can do without a camera. As for mic, if you're looking for a decent mic, this one's pretty good. It's the Blue Yeti. It's the one that I have. But of course, you don't need to go as high end as this one. But if you're looking for a really good sound with good options for settings so that you can do so you can speak without a lot of background noise going off. The Blue Yeti is a really good entry level mic. It's always on sale too, which is really cool. In terms of the camera that I use the HD Pro webcam. This one's also typically on sale. If you wait for like a Black Friday, I got mine for $50, which is really cool. This one's really nice, but a lot of the basic Logitech ones are good as well. So we have a question from Fan. Do you recommend a headset mic or a stand-up mic? So if you are starting out, the headset is perfectly fine. The reason why I have this headset, as well as this mic right over here, is that you can split it up. So if you're using or if you're hosting a whole bunch of people, like our regular podcast where we have multiple people on it, if you have multiple mic devices, you can basically control what you're saying to who, which is really nice. However, if you're limited in your budget, a headset like this is good enough. As long as you have once again, a headset that has good sound isolation, which is, does your mic just capture your voice versus does it capture everything else around you? A lot of gaming headsets are pretty good for entry-level gaming headsets. Some other things that I said that are nice to have here, having your smartphone available, depending on the software that you're using, is very helpful because one, you can use it as a stream deck, which is something like this. You can pay for something in itself where you can press buttons and control your scenes, just like I actually have this one, in which case I can press a button and it'll do its thing. I can press a button and you'll be able to hear music in a second, things like that. Let's see. So getting a webcam during this pandemic is so difficult. That is correct, it is. But also, if you have a smartphone, which most of you do, you can actually use your smartphone, with a few downloads of course, to act as a camera for your stream. So you can use it as a webcam as well. And we'll talk about some of these resources later on. Another question is, are you using a splitter or front and rear panels? Good question. So because my mic is the Yeti mic is a USB mic, while the headset that I'm using is a like an aux jack. I'm using two different things on my sound card, so it makes it a little bit easier to control in that sense. However, there is additional software that you can use to control that a little bit further if you don't have as many plugins as possible. Like I said, if you're only using one mic source, which is perfectly fine, using the headset is good enough. You don't need to split it up or anything. A lot of actual like cheap splitters that you can find on Amazon for audio don't actually work with headsets like this for their mic. You can do it for your sound, so both you and your partner who's sitting beside you can hear the audio, but you won't be able to speak. Okay. For example, when I do stream, I typically stream with my girlfriend. We both have headsets, but we speak through this one mic, the Yeti mic in front of us. And that's kind of how we go about using it. Other things to show you is I wrote lighting down here. Lighting is a really good way to make a cheap camera look really, really good. Because you'll notice right now that there, in the back here, there's like a giant laser beam of light, right? Typically when you have that, if you've ever taken any photo with a camera, when you have a giant flaring light source in the back and you're taking a photo from the front, you just look really dark, right? So to offset that, to have light that goes into your face is what's going to make you look really good. However, if you have a light source that's directly in your face, one, it can get really, really warm. And number two, it might just make you look shiny versus right now, obviously it's a little bit softer. I don't look as shiny. The way that I achieve that, and I'm actually going to show you with my cam. Here, let me do it like this. I'm gonna show you up here. Okay. So up here, you're gonna see this giant ring light. It's pointed at my wall, as you can see through my photo. Because it's pointed at my wall, it works like it's diffusing light, so it evenly splashes it on my face so that I look normal. Versus, like, I wonder if I can move it so it's facing directly me. Versus like this. Do you see how direct it is? You see the shadows on my right side of my face? This looks kind of gross, to be quite honest. It's not easily like diffused on my face. So the shadowing is all wrong. It's really weird for contrasting. So what you can do is push it towards a wall. And you'll notice it's softer and more evenly distributed. And it'll give you the lighting that you want. Right? Now, you don't need to have such a hardcore light. I was lucky enough that I'm borrowing this thing. However, you can use like a lamp. I used to use this table lamp that's in the background over there, and I focused it on my wall, and it did the same thing. It was just a more yellow of a light. Okay? So a light does absolutely make a difference in making your cheap camera. Considering this is about $100, this is about mid-range. But if I had a lesser value, a cheaper camera, a light will make you look more, look better for it, which is really cool. The other thing that I say here is having a second monitor. Now, this is just a nice to have. A second monitor is specifically useful because you can have all of your streaming set up on one side while your presentation's on the other. For example here, let me see if I can give you an example. If I do this one, you'll notice that I have a whole bunch of other software like this. I have my notes, I have YouTube up. All of this stuff is going to, that I want to have up so I can make sure that the show is actually going well. I have it on my other screen, so once again, I can navigate. You don't really need it because if you don't care about all of this stuff, if you're great and all of your software and hardware are working at the right time, you don't really need it. Let's get on to some cooler topics here. So let's talk about the software that we use. So the one that I typically recommend anyone get started off with, and the one that I'm going to run the tutorial off of, is this one over here called OBS. OBS is a free software that you can download. It's a open software, so it's updated all the time. And a lot of these other ones are based off of OBS. Pretty cool. The one that I'm using for this show, as you can see right here, this one's called Streamlabs. It's more built for gaming, but it has a lot of useful newbie tools, because I'm a newbie, to make your stream look professional with a very little work. We'll talk a little bit about that. And the last one is Stream Elements, which I would actually say is a little bit more advanced. But if you're comfortable in streaming, Stream Elements, honestly, is the safest choice out of the three of them. Because if you, in the case of OBS and Streamlabs, the panels that you see here, like the background image, the square where these are located, all of these are locally hosted on your computer, which means if your computer crashes or you lose files, you're you'd have to build it from scratch on OBS and Streamlabs, which would be really, really difficult. However, Stream Elements hosts all of this art that you see, all these panels online. So since it's cloud saved, you'll never lose it, realistically, unless you forget your login. So that's kind of what the software is. We'll dive a little bit deeply into each of them, but I would say if you want a beginning thing to start with, to play around, Streamlabs is the easiest to learn and the easiest to get used to. If you want to have more control and you might not be doing it for gaming, OBS in itself, the basic program, is a good choice. And lastly, if you want to go pro, honestly, Stream Elements gives you the most options to do stuff. All three of these come with with free software as well, which is pretty cool, and we'll dive into that in just a second here. Want to quickly touch on these. The platform are once again the platform that you broadcast to. The ones that we're going to go over today are YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. That way you can easily get started. If you're looking to stream to a different software, honestly, it's all the same, and we'll teach you a little bit about that. Okay. And once again, if you have any questions in the background, you can always ask in the bottom there. Right now, we're going to talk about how to actually use the software. So I have OBS uploaded here. And if you don't know where to go to get that, actually, let me show you. You can go to obsproject.com and you can download it. It's super easy. It's free. Very simple to do. Once you have it downloaded, though, you'll be introduced to a program that looks like this. Now, this program might seem very daunting, but if you know how to use, honestly, if you know how to use like Paint or PowerPoint, you'll be able to know how to use this. The most important things, no matter if it's OBS like this or Streamlabs like this, you'll notice the orientation is very similar. The most important thing is just to know where you're looking. So the first and foremost, in the bottom left-hand corner here, under the main screen, you're going to notice that this is going to say scenes. It might be really small, but it says scenes. Actually, let me do this. Over here, it says scenes. Scenes is like each of your different views. So you notice that right now, my video is embedded into the actual program. This is what we call a scene, versus this is also a scene, versus this is also a scene. Okay. To do all of that, all you have to do in the bottom left here is you typically start off with one, but if you want to add one, you just press the plus sign in the bottom left. Now that you have a scene, the second thing you need to know is a source. A source is an asset that you're going to load into your program. Things like video, audio, images, things like that, all help you out. Now we're going to talk about how to get all of these different resources, but assuming that you have, let's say, an audio source, you can press the plus sign in the bottom left. It follows a theme. You can choose something that you're going to load. For example, I'm going to do a audio input. I'm going to say this is my mic. Add it. It's going to ask me what mic I'm using. You'll notice I have 4 because I have one on my camera. I have one called Yeti, which is my desktop mic. And then I have the microphone real-time or Realtek audio, which is this one. I also have stereo version, but obviously, whatever. For now, we're going to use my Yeti. Okay. You'll notice that I can talk and it pumps up, and now I have an audio source. Pretty cool. If I wanted a video source, for example, I want to capture the working screen that I have on my right, I can use display capture to capture my actual monitor. I can use browser to like input a GIF, which I'll show you how to do. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. Video capture device is your camera. Now, I can't use another camera because I'm already using it for the stream. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a display. We'll just leave it as display, and you'll notice, boom, right? Let's do something a little bit cooler here. To show you the limits of what you can do, we can go for a browser. Let's see, what type of thing should I put in here? Let's put something Pokemon style, because I like it. That's really creepy. Holy moly. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's go for this teamwork one. I like this one. We're going to grab this media link, and you'll notice if I go back to my OBS over here, I'm going to press the plus sign again. We're going to go to, this was a browser, so we're going to open a browser. Actually, no, it's a media source. No, actually, no, it is a browser. Browser. It's going to ask me what URL. I'm going to say this URL. Boom. Ta-da! Now, the reason why I wanted two different things here is that you'll notice that I have something on top of another thing. It is called a layer. You'll notice the browser, which is Pikachu and Eevee, are on top of my display capture, which is on the bottom. If I want it in the other order, I can drag the browser below the display capture, and now you can't see it. Right? So pretty simple here. If you want the other way around, drag it back up. Hello. Okay. Other things that are tips and tricks is that you can actually move them around pretty easily. You can shrink them by dragging the corner. If you want to crop them, you hold the Alt key and grab a side panel and it'll turn green so we can crop it up. This is extremely useful to say, like, for example, when I run the webinar and I have like 4 different people on it, I'm technically hosting like a video chat with everybody. And for an example, for my display capture, I need this tiny camera over here to be highlighted. So if I only want my camera, I can go like this. I'm going to drag this side, go all the way over here, drag all the way over here. And then we're going to make myself big again. Oh my god, I'm pixelated. But you'll notice that you can, once again, focus the camera into a specific space and then add it to the canvas, right? You'll notice that you can do that with pretty much anything, and that's kind of how you can add the camera, or add your different videos, add your different images, as long as you know how to layer things. Pretty cool. Now, my best recommendation when working with OBS or like Streamlabs, they're all the same, is that focus on making your one scene, the one that you're going to be using the most. For example, in gaming, you're probably going to use something like the one that I have right now, where I'm in the bottom right-hand corner, or something like the game chat, which I have like this, where you're just on the right side. You're probably going to use one of these variations, right? I would focus your efforts into making this panel first, because you would already have loaded your audio sources, you would have loaded your video sources, and you might have done extra work to like crop everything, which is very important. Now, if you actually want to do that, and you want a scene that's similar, but you want to make a few modifications, if you go to the scene in the upper or bottom left here, you'll notice that you can duplicate it, in which you would say, let's say, scene 2. And now you can say from scene 1 and scene 2, we're going to move this over here and move this over here, change the orientation. You kept all the audio sources and the video sources, but now you don't have to do nearly half the work you did the first time to make it happen. Okay? So just to recap a few things that we talked about. Number 1, OBS. And Streamlabs and Stream Elements, all of them work the same. They're all in the same orientation, where you'll notice that the main screen is in the bottom left. The scenes are in the bottom left, the sources are right next to it, and then there's the audio mixer. To create a scene, you press the plus sign. That's pretty much in every single software. And then my recommendation, tip and trick, is to focus on creating your main scene first, so that you have all the resources loaded, and then you can duplicate it. The other reason why I say duplication, let's say you don't actually need the Pokemon thing to show. You'll notice that because I have it loaded here, you can just press the hide button. It looks like an eye, and that way it's still there if you want it to show, but then you can also delete it and move on from there. It saves a lot of time. That was a lot of work, so if you have any questions about that, give me a heads up. I'm going to show you another tip and trick within this program. You'll notice in the audio mixer here, it continually goes to the red. What happens when you go to the red is that it gets really fuzzy. It's not happening right now, but if you picked up the audio over here, it's when you overload the sound of your mic and it becomes like what we call maxing out your mic. It's really bad. So the way that you can change that is if you go to the settings function here, there's something called filters, just like an Instagram filter or whatever, but you're doing it for your voice. At this point, your audio filter, there's a few things that you can do. One thing is the noise gate. I have a very loud keyboard and mouse, so to make sure that all of that doesn't get kicked up, a noise gate will only pick it up or pick up the sound source if it crosses a threshold, like if you're loud enough, which is important. Whoops. There. Another thing that you can add using the plus sign in the bottom left is the noise suppression. What noise suppression will do is, once again, if I am too loud, it'll make sure that I'm not too loud. As an example, you'll notice it's still doing it. Filter. I'm gonna add one more called the compressor. But we're gonna go with noise suppression. We're gonna suppress it a little bit more, and it should keep me from going red, as I usually did before. You guys notice the difference? At first, I was all the way up here all the time. Now I'm not. Yeah, that's kind of how you work with the software. And I know it's kind of weird to see two versions of me up here. One thing else that you can do, you'll notice that for this scene, I'm facing, was it left? But I can also face right by right-clicking here and, oops. Right-clicking this, using the transform function, and then the transform function has flips, so I can flip myself and I'm looking at myself now. Okay, so that's a few different basic tricks that you can do with this program. Cool. We're going to take a little bit of pause because that was a lot of information. Because this is new software for a lot of you, what do you guys think? Do you have any questions about the software, or are there certain settings that you want to learn how to actually do? Because learning how to do scenes and sources are the very basics of how to go about using the program. But there are a lot of other things that you can do. For example, filters was one thing I showed you. How to crop your images was something else I showed you. Yeah. Are there any questions so far? If there are no questions, okay, so let's say you have all of your scenes set up. So I'm gonna move, let's move this. So let's say you're a pro, you have all of your scenes set up here. That was not very pro of me. You have all your scenes set up here. You'll notice that I have a lot. You chose the ones that you want, and now you're ready to go online, right? To go online, there are a couple settings that you need to learn in the program to get this started. The main points here are you need to learn these three things, or where to find them, no matter what platform you're working off of. One is called a server, or an RMTP server. Number two, if they have it, it's called the stream URL. And number three is the stream key. Now, a lot of the programs that you'll be streaming off of, you might not need all three of them because they already gave you, it already has settings for that. An example would be, I go here, yes. In the settings in the bottom right here, you'll notice that there's a stream function. And it already says, hey, do you want to stream to YouTube, right? It's already going to input a server for you. That part is completely fine. You don't need to do anything. The only thing you'll need to grab is the stream key. Okay. You'll notice if I switch this to, let's say, Facebook, once again, it defaults to server, requires the stream key. If you need Twitch, Twitch is actually simple in OBS. You just connect it. You just log in and it'll work. Let me show you where to find it, and then Gulsi, I'll show you where you can, or I'll answer your question in a second. I definitely see it here. First, like I said, before diving into the setting, you need to find the appropriate stream information so that you can actually broadcast into that program. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit where to find these things. So if I am going to stream into a page, we're going to go to the 655 page. Let's say you want to stream to Facebook. There's this live button right here, right? If you press the live button, it's going to ask you for a few settings. We can press connect is the where you would access it in Facebook. You'll notice it has a server URL and a stream key. This is the stream key you want to snipe. In terms of YouTube, you'll notice that once you press the live button here, for example, this is for our live stream. In the bottom left here, you're going to see that stream key right here. Typically, it's hidden. Okay. On Twitch, once again, is a lot simpler because it typically connects right in. But if you wanted to find a few things for it, you can go to the edit stream function. You can go, you can go to your option here. You can go to your channel settings, account settings, and figure this out from over here as well. Yeah. Typically for Twitch, both OBS and Streamlabs OBS have and actually Stream Element, they all broadcast directly into Twitch, so you don't really need to worry about it. Okay, so Gulsi is listening to Novak. All right, Novak. Your question is, do you need to edit video clips prior to uploading, or can you do it in the program? That's a really good question. So streaming is live. So if you wanted to show a video on your stream, then yes. However, if you're talking about, like, for example, this camera that I have right now, the presentation over here, this is all video. This is live. So you don't need to prepare any video unless you really want to show like a movie or something, which I don't recommend. However, for all of these presentations things, I'm going to show you the types of resources I use for that. The easiest way to answer that pretty simply is that if you want to show media, yes, you need to have your media preloaded. Of course, you can go to like YouTube and you can look at all these different videos and do your thing like that. But if depending on the platform that you're broadcasting, they kind of limit, because of copyright, what type of video and music that we're going to be showing, which is actually a really good segue into when I show you some of the resources that we have. But yeah, as long as, in talking about your platforms and how it works with your software, as long as you can find the stream key, ideally, and you input it into your stream settings, which no matter what program, you're going to find a settings wheel somewhere. Find the stream option and put it here. Once you do that, you can press start streaming and it will broadcast to that. To show you a little bit about that in action, you'll notice that when you press stream and you're within that platform, there is a preview screen, and typically you'll let your preview screen load, and then in the upper right hand corner it'll ask you to go live, or there'll be a confirmation to make you go live. So that kind of helps out quite a bit as well. Okay. So really good questions here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give me a shout out. I'm here to answer. The last thing I'm going to go through is free resources that I was able to find through trying to figure out how to stream properly, that I want to tell you about, because it makes your life a lot easier. A lot of people, when they start streaming, talk about like, hey, can I use my Spotify playlist, for example? That's a really good one that some people say, like, hey, I want some background music, can I use Spotify? For a lot of things, the answer is no, because there is copyright, right? But there are a lot of free resources out there that are copyright free, that allow you to use the resources upon conditions, as well as, let's say you're not a graphic designer, but you want these cool slides that I'm using right here. You want these cool background, this box that I'm in, right? Where did I find all of this stuff? And I can tell you right off the bat, I didn't create any of this. I didn't create the song that's going to play in the background. I didn't create really the slide deck here. I didn't create the background image or any of this type of stuff for any of this. I Googled a whole bunch of free resources, and let's go over them. first let's talk about music, right? If you want to have this cool song that's playing in the background, or intro music, outro music, or theme music for your things, a really cool website that my girlfriend actually taught me where to go is this website called Thematic. Thematic was actually started by a famous YouTuber, which is really cool, and they're helping other YouTubers and content creators find music as long as you promote these artists. Now, for the song that I have right here, you can go on the website and search any of these songs. There's a whole library of them. There's new music all the time. But if you download them, you'll notice that you have access to their album art, as long as you don't forget to credit the artist. Right? That's why at the end of each of my slides, or at the end of each of these presentations, as well as in the description of it, you typically find the credit for the music that we're playing. So Thematic is a really cool website that you can check out for free music. When I try to Google this, there's a lot of YouTube like free, no royalty music options out there. I would highly recommend not using any of those, because one, just because it says it's royalty free on YouTube doesn't actually mean that it's royalty free. And although it might have been royalty free when it was first uploaded into YouTube, let's just say, it might not be a few years later. And if you're still using that, you can be dinged for it. So there are other websites that you can pay very small dollars, or Thematic, where if you basically give the props to where it's due for the free music, it's very good. For those Panko cadets, you probably know what the next one is. If you're looking for a good way to create these images, you don't really know where to start, or you don't know, you want a cool thumbnail, things like that. Canva.com is a canvas without the S. Canva.com is a really good one that helps you design cool banners, YouTube chart art, things like that, to help you boost the quality of your actual webinar. You'll notice that I have one over here that we use for this series. I'm not cool enough to create any of this art, but a lot of these templates are for free. For example, let's say I need a new YouTube thumbnail, YouTube thumbnail. I can check it. It's already perfected for the dimensions that you require, and a lot of these are free that you can start with. You can modify things like that. So if you haven't checked out canva.com, check out canva.com. It's really cool. There's even video versions. Some of these are paid, some of these are not. Obviously, I recommend supporting these websites if you've been using them. I use them quite a bit, so I've supported. Lastly, how do you get better at streaming once you get started? Is there any free resources? There is a YouTube channel that I learned a lot of the things I'm working on from. There are a ton out there, but the one that I use is Gale Level. It's this really eccentric younger dude who has a whole bunch of tutorial videos on how to do things. He recommends budget hardware, things like that. But a cool thing about this guy, because he is a graphic designer, he recommends he has a YouTube series about how to broadcast. He actually has a bunch of free resources off a website called Gumroad, and he typically uses his YouTube channel to broadcast these. You'll notice that some of these are paid, like this $5 one, but a lot of them are like $0, and a lot of them are fully stacked to help you out. So as long as you like using them, for example, for my own Twitch channel, I use this one. I barely did anything to it, and it's all animated, which is really cool. The one that I'm using right now is actually from Streamlabs, where if you go into your Streamlabs thing, there's a themes button in the upper left where you'll be able to see all of these cool different versions of setups that you can, once again, subscribe to, pay for, and there's a few free ones on here as well. Okay, that way, if you're worried about like, hey, I'm just getting started, I don't really want to invest in a lot of different things, I'm not artistic enough to create any of this, Neither am I, and I was able to find it for free because these are free resources. Really, really cool. That's how I got started, honestly. That's how we got all of this together and hosted the 655 podcast, my Twitch, and all of that different stuff. Okay. So that's actually the majority of all the content that I have for you guys. That's pretty much everything that I have. Hopefully, a lot of the material was pretty useful to you. Like I said, the one thing I'm trying to promote is that it doesn't take a lot of money, hardware, or even like artistic style to start a streaming, like your stream whatsoever. And it's a great way, and it's a great medium, especially when we're all working from home or studying from home. We're just trapped in our places, to not only get content out there, to work on your communication skills, but also dive into a really cool emerging hobby, if I'm honest. And it doesn't really take a lot to get yourself started. So whether you're trying to do it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're using, this is the space to do so. So I'm going to open it up for a little bit for any questions that you guys have. Anything that you might be curious about that I didn't cover, feel free to give me your shout out here. Otherwise, if you are looking to get started with your own stream, of course, what we were promoting in our 655 podcast in general is use your resources, whether it be asking a question to myself, asking a question to another YouTuber. We're all here. It's all love in learning how to like produce content here. So, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Just gonna chill for a little bit here while I close some of the different windows. What's your question? Oh, so we have a really good question from my girlfriend. She asks, if you don't really know where to get started or what content to get started for streaming, what can you start doing? Number one, the one that I feel most comfortable with is, or the most comfortable answer I can give is that everyone has a passion for some subject, and you can be something as simple as you talking about it and giving yourself an open forum to speak about a subject. So you'll notice that there's a lot of people who love makeup. It's a big series. Gaming is obviously a really big one, but there's also just like talk shows where you and a friend just talk it out. That's kind of what the 655 podcast is as well. And as long as you have a topic that you want to talk about, you have enough content to stream. So that's a really good question out there. So Mr. Lau says, when people have a streaming PC and another PC, how does that work? Okay, so for two PC setups here, they're a little bit different because you would have one dedicated PC, your gaming PC, have a, what we call, let me see if I can find it because I have one of these. It's called a capture card. I don't know if you know what a capture card is, but basically it is a low latency hardware option that allows you to grab a video from another screen. So you can technically have two HDMIs plugged into your monitor. One is feeding an input, right? And one is feeding an output. The output would go into your, you know what? I'm gonna find it. Give me 1 second. All right, so I use the Elgato HD60, and this is a really good tool because it's a capture card. It comes with an HDMI, right, and an audio source. So if you think about it, it's actually pretty easy to use. You connect this to something like your TV or another monitor that has enough outputs, like connections to feed multiple different displays. very commonly, like the monitors that I have, they have like a DVI and an HDMI. I would connect the DVI to my desktop computer, and then my streaming PC, I'll have the HDMI connect to this, so it can feed into another PC. It's kind of confusing, but they use something called a capture card to make that all happen. It's also the same way that you see how people stream like their Switch, right? They have a capture card to connect to that other screen, feed the music and feed the video into a computer, and that's really what they use. That's kind of how the two streaming PCs, or a streaming and a gaming PC, work. That's a really good question. There's also, well, let me see if I can find it for you. There is a resource that I have used before, and I'm gonna post it into the chat here. Can I reply you? Nah, I can't reply you. This video that I pasted into the chat is from a YouTuber called Alpha Gaming. He has a lot of streaming software, tutorial videos as well, and he's the one that walked me through how to actually do the gaming and streaming PC, even though that's not my setup. So you can check that out as well. I'm gonna hold out for a few more questions here. Otherwise, like I said before, I need to stop saying that. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully this was useful. It's the first time that we're exploring a tool that is not really cadet related, to be quite honest. Hopefully it's useful, because I want to provide you some cool hobbies, some cool resources that you can explore, because it's my hobby. Awesome. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I'll give my official sign off here. So thank you for joining the 655 podcast. This is part of the skills series. This was the weird one that we're starting off with. It's streaming to get you guys engaged in a hobby, toolkit, or resource that you might not actually have seen in a regular day. Oh, actually, we have a really good question here from Captain Z. What precautions do people need to take in terms of what they say? So this is more of about a broadcasting rule than it is about how to stream specifically. There is a lot of conditions that you need to have when you do stream. For example, on any platform, it'll require you to have like an age restriction. If not, typically if you have if you use explicit language, obviously it's going to be over the age of 18. If you're talking about content that or have jokes or have content of any kind that is more adult in nature, you will need to flag it as over 18. If you don't do that, it typically gets, like, it might not stop your live stream right off the bat, but it'll take you down eventually. And you don't want to get flagged, because it's really hard to come back and typically my recommendation is do your absolute best to refrain from like using profanity, because it opens up a wider world for you to stream. A good example of that is one of the most popular gaming streamers out there, Ninja, used to stream content where he used profanity. He was just a startup streamer, right? But he really took off when he like disciplined himself to not curse on stream, so he could actually put in that tag for appropriate for children. And now he's one of the biggest streamers out there because he was able to curb his profanity. Other precautions is that in terms of just like public speaking in general, or just basic etiquette, there are specific things that you probably want to avoid going on stream, saying in general. Things like politics, religion, like very dicey subjects that you wouldn't really talk to normal people about. Yeah, keep that off stream. Typically on stream, you want to be able to speak. You want to speak on common topics and keep it light and friendly, to be quite honest, especially for when you're getting started. Even if you are giving your opinion on a very specific like knowledge resource, for example, cadets, right? You want to keep it more on theme for that subject and keep it age appropriate. So that's a really, really good question. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm gonna see if there's one last question before I do my third sign off. Otherwise, I will wish you guys happy Thursday. We kept it under an hour, which is really cool. And if you have any questions about any of the things that I have on this stream, for example, this chat, this thing that's called a stinger transition that has the video like wipe across, which is pretty cool. If you have any questions about that, that's a little bit specific, come ask me. I'll help you out because that's something that took me a while to learn, and I don't want you to suffer the same labor that I put into it. Because if I already know how to do it, you know how to do it. Beyond that, oh, actually, one tip that I forgot to say. You'll notice that I did mention that I use something called a stream deck. I'm going to show it. This thing, it's a stream deck. Now, you don't have to get this. It's just a helpful button presser that lets you run your stream. It comes with a couple cool features, but you don't need it because this thing's like $100. If I didn't use it for work, I wouldn't have bought it. However, the reason why I say a cell phone is really useful is that if you use Streamlabs, which is the software that I use right here, once again, it's free. It works just like OBS. If you use Streamlabs, there is a app for Streamlabs. And when you have the app for Streamlabs, the one really cool thing that you can do is there is such a thing called remote control. And it's got to load, but oh, actually they separated it out into its own app. So let me quickly download that. It's called Streamlabs Deck. Streamlabs Deck. If you open this, you should be able remote. Wow. You should be able to control your dashboard through your phone. So instead of spending $100 onto getting a stream deck like I have, you can actually use your phone as a stream deck. You can customize the buttons, you can flip different scenes like I was doing before. Saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of effort, and I think that's exclusively for Streamlabs. That's why I say if you're looking to get introduced to how to run something, Streamlabs is very useful. And actually, while I do this, if you're looking for Streamlabs, because it's built for gaming, it didn't actually have this option beforehand. But now they've actually implemented that if you press the settings wheel in the bottom left here, it's in the very, very bottom left, and you go to stream, in this section here, because I'm streaming, it's going to be read out, but in this section here, you'll be able to actually choose a custom option. And that's where if you, no matter what the platform is, you can stream onto it, which is actually really cool. So no matter what the platform, you can stream on because it has custom. As long as you take a look at the fundamentals, as long as you grab that RMTP server, the stream URL, and stream key, you can use Streamlabs for pretty much any platform that has streaming. Cool. Awesome. Then that's all I really got for you guys. Thank you for joining me on the stream here today. Hopefully it was helpful. The next few ones that we're going to probably produce, not just for the mentality series, but for the skill series. I've heard from a lot of level 4s and some level 5s that because we will be in a little bit of trouble going into the new year, we're probably going to focus on communication, instruction, and how to do NCO tasks. But if there are any other skill sets you want to learn, feel free to give me a shout out. Feel free to talk to Warrant Officer Chan, and we'll try to hook it up as well. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. because I'm hungry and I want some food. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week. Bye.